Thank my hat?
You know who I am?
Yep.
Who?
Shedeur Sanders.
Yes, sir.
I wanted you to go win.
I know.
Why'd they wait so long for Gabriel?
I don't know, man. He's a good guy, though,
Hang in there,
bro.
Don't give up.
Steeler fans were cheering for
Thank
you,
you.
bro.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Seriously, we wanted to see you play, man.
Hey,
We wanted you to play so bad.
I appreciate it. You see me on the field, though? You see me on the side?
Oh yeah, we're like, come on, put him in. We were yelling, put in Sanders. Come on, coach, we want 12.
Thank you.
Hey, everything happened for a reason, you know. I'm just thankful to God that I even have the opportunity to get on this field
Amen.
and to just get
It's all
the chance,
about
you know
God.
what I'm saying? So
We love you. We love you.
I appreciate y'all.
And
Thank
your
you.
dad, get a picture. Get a picture,
Wait.
Aaron.
Do y'all know Shiloh?
Oh, heck
My
yeah,
brother?
number 28. Well, he was 28. I wanted to buy his jersey, but that's all right. I still am too.
I'm videotaping, so I'll take a
All right,
picture
there we
later.
go.
Oh my God, I
Shout out Dom, everyone. Hey, but I appreciate y'all staying tuned this whole day, this whole process. This has been a crazy past 3 days, but
Yes, it has.
y'all see can't nothing stop us
What? Tell them what?
because it's W God in the chat.
There you go.
We're not worried about nothing.
At all.
Everybody keeps laughing at this. Everybody keeps calling it just a rumor. But what if this is exactly how it starts? What if right now, in front of everybody, something bigger is quietly forming in Cleveland and people are too busy joking to even notice it? Because think about it for a second. Shilo Sanders to the Browns didn't just come out of nowhere. This didn't just randomly appear on the internet for no reason. You got clips going viral. You got him popping up around Browns conversations. You got fans connecting dots. And yeah, people want to brush it off as just talk. But we've seen this before in the NFL. We've seen situations where something sounds crazy at first, something sounds like pure fan fiction.
So, word on the street, according to the fans, the Shedeur Sanders fans, is that Shilo Sanders possibly could be making his way to Cleveland. Now, we've been hearing this notion for a little bit that Shilo Sanders could be possibly joining the Browns.
And then a few weeks later, a few months later, it suddenly doesn't sound so crazy anymore. And that's the part people are ignoring right now. Because the moment you bring up the Sanders name, everything changes instantly. This is not just any player. This is a name that carries attention, pressure, media spotlight, and influence all at once. So now ask yourself this. Why is Cleveland even being connected to this at all? Why is this conversation gaining traction instead of dying out like most random rumors do? Because usually fake stories disappear fast. But this one keeps coming back. It keeps picking up energy, and that's what makes it different. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because you can't talk about Shiloh without eventually talking about Shedeur Sanders. You just can't separate that.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
And if Cleveland is even just thinking about building around Shedeur in the future, then bringing in someone like Shiloh suddenly doesn't sound wild anymore. It starts sounding strategic. It starts sounding like the early stages of something being built behind the scenes. And people will say, nah, that's reaching. But is it really? Because organizations don't just look at talent anymore. They look at chemistry, they look at branding, they look at impact. And the Sanders name brings all of that instantly. Now take it one step further, because this is where things go from interesting to straight up dangerous for the league if it actually happens. If somehow, some way, Cleveland ends up with both brothers in the same system, now you're not just talking about players anymore. Now you're opening the door to something even bigger. Because we all know what Deion Sanders has said before. We all know he's made it clear he would love the opportunity to coach his sons again. And suddenly, what sounded impossible starts to feel like a long-term setup. Not something for today, but something that could be building piece by piece. And that's the part nobody wants to say out loud yet. Because it sounds too bold. It sounds too perfect. It sounds like a movie script.
Bro. See this. Fam, you supposed to be watching this video.
Bro, the mic's off.
The mic's on.
This what I'm saying, like stuff like this, bro, is like why it be weird, bro, because like, look, they'll take that and be like, oh, he doing what he did in the interview.
But that's good though.
Brody, no,
that was funny.
That's not who I am, bro. That's the easy misconception. He really put me on mute.
People are gonna take things out of context, but when it's something that funny what you did, it's kind of okay because that's playing off of them taking everything out of context.
So
Shedeur.
Shedeur.
See this.
Fam, you supposed to be watching this.
But the NFL has never been afraid of big moments, big stories, and big personalities taking over. And Cleveland, right now, they are in the exact type of situation where a move like this could actually make sense. confusion at quarterback, constant questions about direction, a fan base starving for something to believe in. This is the kind of environment where one unexpected move can flip everything overnight. So yeah, you can laugh at it. You can call it fake. You can say it's just fans talking. But don't ignore the pattern. Don't ignore how these things usually start small, start quiet, and then suddenly become real before anyone can stop it. Because if this actually happens, if Shiloh really does find his way to Cleveland, people are going to look back at moments like this and realize this was never just a rumor. This was the beginning of something nobody saw coming until it was already too late. Now let's slow this down for a second and really look at why this isn't as crazy as people want it to be. Because Cleveland is not in a normal situation right now. This is not a stable, locked-in roster with a clear direction and zero questions. This is a team that has been searching, rotating, testing ideas, and trying to figure out who they are going forward. And when a team is in that kind of position, that's when unexpected opportunities start to make sense. Because you're not protecting a perfect system, you're trying to build one. So when a name like Shilo Sanders starts floating around, it doesn't just hit as random, it hits as interesting timing. And timing is everything in this league. Because right now, the Browns are sitting in a space where they need energy, they need identity, and they need something that can shift the conversation around them instantly. And whether people want to admit it or not, the Sanders name does exactly that. It brings eyes, it brings confidence, it brings a certain edge that not every player can walk in with. And Shiloh specifically? He's not just writing a name, he plays with intensity, he's active, he's visible, and he already understands how to operate under pressure because he's been in the spotlight his whole life. That matters more than people think. Because Cleveland doesn't just need talent. They need personalities that can handle what comes with trying to turn things around. And here's the part that really makes you think. If there is even a small chance that Cleveland is exploring Shedeur Sanders as part of their future at quarterback, then bringing in Shiloh becomes more than just a separate move. It becomes a layer. It becomes part of a bigger picture that you might not fully see yet. Because teams don't always build in straight lines. Sometimes they start setting pieces in place before the full plan is even visible to the public. And fans will say, that's overthinking it.
Can you do a hit in the morning? And Dane was like, yeah, I kind of already talked to Spencer at that moment. I realized that there was a communication gap between
something's
me
wrong with our phones, man. I don't know what it is.
and my co-host. But Daniel, bro, man, I know you're busy. I thank you for your time this morning. This is my first question for you because the last 2 weeks, you follow me, you see it. I've been kind of coming out here saying that this is the realistic plan for the Cleveland Browns at quarterback. Your room is Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, possibly whatever rookie developmental quarterback that they add in a draft. We spent the last month or so, this show, this station, other places talking about the possibilities of a Malik Willis or Kyler Murray or a trade for Mac Jones, etc. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like that this was the plan all along. How do you see it?
But is it really? Or is it just connecting dots that people don't want to connect yet? Because we've seen organizations lean into family chemistry before, we've seen teams build around comfort, trust, and relationships, especially when developing a young quarterback. And if Shedeur is that guy in the future, having someone like Shiloh already in the building changes the environment instantly. It creates familiarity, it creates accountability, and it builds a different type of locker room dynamic that you cannot just manufacture overnight. And don't forget this, Cleveland has been linked to multiple directions at quarterback already. Different names, different rumors, different possibilities. That tells you one thing clearly, they are still searching. They are still open. And when a team is still open, that's when bold ideas have room to breathe. That's when something that sounds unlikely suddenly becomes worth a conversation. And this is where people need to pay attention, because not every move is about what makes sense on paper right now. Some moves are about where you want to be a year from now, 2 years from now. And if Cleveland is even thinking long-term, even thinking about building something fresh, something with identity, something that can take over headlines instead of constantly reacting to them, then you cannot just dismiss this as noise, because this might not be about today's roster. And now this is where everything starts to connect on a whole different level. Because once you bring Shedeur Sanders fully into the conversation, this stops being a random rumor and starts looking like a possible blueprint. Because let's be real, Shedeur is not just another quarterback name being tossed around. This is a player with star power, leadership presence, and the kind of confidence that can shift an entire franchise's identity the moment he steps in. So if Cleveland is even thinking about that kind of future, then every move around him suddenly matters more than people realize. And that's where Shiloh comes right back into the picture. because now it's not just about adding a player. It's about building an environment that Shedeur can step into and instantly feel locked in. Familiar faces, trust already built, energy already aligned. That's how you accelerate development without forcing it. And teams are starting to understand that more and more. This is not the old NFL where you just throw talent together and hope it works. This is about ecosystems, chemistry, and making sure your most important player walks into a situation where he can thrive immediately. And if you're Cleveland, you have to ask yourself, do you want to keep rolling the dice with random fits? Or do you want to actually build something with structure behind it? Because right now, they've been bouncing between options, testing different directions, and nothing has truly locked in long-term. And when that happens, it opens the door for a completely different approach. Something bold, something coordinated, something that people don't fully understand until it's already in motion. And here's what makes this even more interesting. The fan reaction is already there. People are already talking about the idea of the Sanders brothers playing together again. People are already imagining what that could look like in Cleveland. And that kind of organic hype is something organizations pay attention to, whether they admit it or not. Because the NFL is not just about football anymore. It's about attention, momentum, and creating something people want to watch every single week. And the Sanders name guarantees that instantly.
I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to say, like, that was the plan. Now, you got to remember, like, after the season ended, Andrew Berry did say, like, we're going to explore the quarterback market because we have to. And honestly, I think that, I've only been here for now 2 seasons, 2 years, but I feel like for the most part, Andrew Berry's been like fairly forthcoming. Like sometimes he throws you a little okey doke, like the Travis Hunter, Otani, the unicorn stuff, and he kind of pulls one over you. But like for the most part, I feel like he's fairly forthcoming and pretty honest about where the team is and what they're doing. So when he said, we're going to explore the quarterback market, like I thought that was a pretty genuine statement. Like, of course, they're going to look at what's out there. But then, like, you kind of looked at what the landscape was, like Malik Willis, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa. Like, it was a mixture of, like, players that the Browns probably weren't going to be as interested in as at their price market and vice versa with Malik Willis. Some guys, kind of retread guys in Tua and Kyler who probably weren't going to be as interested in coming to Cleveland. And then I remember what really stood out to me was at the Combine in late February, and obviously Spencer was there as well, and he probably will remember this as well. I asked AB specifically, do you think you'll be able to get a starting caliber quarterback in free agency?
Yeah.
And he said TBD. And I thought that was really interesting because if you ask AB, like, do you think you can get, multiple quality starting offensive linemen in free agency, I think he probably would have told you, like, I think that there's going to be some realistic additions for us and that we're going to target. So when he said TBD on bringing in like a legitimate free agent starting quarterback, that's when I was just like, I don't know. I think that, realistically, to your point, realistically.
Now take a step back and look at the bigger picture again. If you're building towards Shedeur and you bring in Shiloh as part of that foundation, you're not just adding talent, you're creating a storyline, a culture shift, and a reason for the entire league to start paying attention to Cleveland in a completely different way. And that's powerful. Because teams that control the narrative usually control the momentum too. And Cleveland has been on the opposite side of that for a long time, constantly reacting, constantly being questioned, constantly trying to prove something. But a move like this flips that completely. Now you're the team everyone is watching, the team everyone is talking about. The team that suddenly feels like it's building something new instead of chasing something old. And that's why you can't just brush this off anymore. Because once you connect Shedeur to the future, Shiloh to the present, and Cleveland to the opportunity. And this is where it goes from interesting idea to something that could actually shake the entire league if it lines up. Because now you have to bring the biggest piece into the picture, Deion Sanders. And the moment his name enters this conversation, everything changes instantly. Because now you're not just talking about 2 players potentially landing in Cleveland. You're talking about the possibility of a full circle moment that could redefine how teams think about building a franchise. And before people rush to shut it down, just listen for a second. Deion has already made it clear in the past that coaching his sons at the professional level is something he would embrace. That's not speculation. That's not fans making things up. That's something he has openly put out there. So now connect that to everything else that's been building. If Cleveland somehow positions itself with both Shedeur Sanders as a future quarterback and Shiloh as part of the roster, then suddenly you've created a situation that becomes very real down the line. Not today, not tomorrow, but in the future when the timing is right. And that's how big moves usually happen. They don't drop all at once. They build piece by piece until one day it all makes sense at the same time. And Cleveland right now is one of the few teams in the league where a bold, unconventional path like this could actually develop. Because they are not locked into a perfect system. They are not coming off a dynasty run. They are still searching for that identity that finally sticks. And when you're in that position, you can either play it safe and stay in the same cycle, or you can take a swing that changes everything. And bringing in the Sanders presence, whether it starts with Shiloh, expands to Shedeur, and eventually opens the door for Deion. That is the type of swing that doesn't just adjust your roster. It transforms your entire organization, because now you're talking about leadership, culture, attention, and belief all shifting at once. And think about what that would mean for a locker room that has been dealing with uncertainty for years. Suddenly, you bring in a name that commands respect, a mindset that demands accountability, and a vision that players can actually rally behind. That's different. That hits different in a league where energy and confidence can change the direction of a team faster than any playbook adjustment. And people will say it's too big, too dramatic, too unlikely. But those are the same things people say right before something unexpected actually happens. Because the NFL has never been predictable when it comes to star power aligning in the right situation. And Cleveland, whether people want to admit it or not, is sitting in a position where they could become the center of something massive if they choose to go in that direction. And here's the part that nobody is really breaking down the right way. The signs don't have to be loud to mean something is building. Because people keep waiting for one big announcement, one clear report, one insider to confirm everything. But that's not how these situations usually develop. It starts small, it starts subtle. It starts with moments that look random until you line them all up. Shilo Sanders being connected to Cleveland, him being seen around Browns energy, the jersey moments, the online buzz. None of that confirms anything on its own, but together, it creates a pattern that's hard to completely ignore. And that's where smart fans start paying attention.
The best pathway, the best pathway for the Browns in this current roster and the shape of this roster for them to contend is for one of these incumbent guys to take off. And really you're looking at Shedeur because he's younger. You know, you saw some flashes this past year. Like that is in an ideal world for the Browns, that is their pathway to contending in 2026 and beyond. The question is, is that realistic and possible? And I think that, obviously the first and second wave of free agency has passed. No quarterback has been added. The only other real logical way for them to add a quarterback is through the draft, but they're not going to get Fernando Mendoza. We'll see about Ty Simpson and some of these other guys. But really, I think that this current quarterback room is what we're looking at when we talk about a quarterback competition and who's going to lead this offense in 2026.
So I guess off of that sort of last part of that answer, Daniel, one thing we know about this Browns team is Andrew Berry and his staff, they like to carry 4 quarterbacks in the offseason. So as you kind of project out where they could find another one, do you think that could come from a signing of a veteran late? Do you think the draft is the more likely possibility? And also, what does all this mean, you think, for Dillon Gabriel in the long run?
Not jumping to conclusions, but not dismissing it either. Because we've seen this before, players showing interest before anything becomes official, relationships forming before contracts are even discussed, teams quietly doing homework while the public is still debating if something is even real. And Cleveland right now? They are in the perfect spot to be one of those teams moving quietly while everybody else is loud. Because while the headlines are focused on quarterback debates, Deshaun Watson questions, and every new name being thrown into the mix, something like this could easily be developing under the radar. And that's what makes it dangerous for the rest of the league if it actually connects. Because if you look at it from a bigger perspective, this is not just about filling positions. This is about creating momentum. This is about shifting how people view your franchise without needing 10 different moves. One connection can change everything if it's the right one. And the Sanders name carries that kind of weight instantly. You bring in Shiloh, you keep the door open for Shedeur, and now you've created a situation where players around the league start watching Cleveland differently. Free agents pay attention, young talent pays attention, and suddenly a team that was being questioned becomes a team people are curious about. And that curiosity? That turns into attention. And attention turns into opportunity. That's how fast things can flip in this league. And don't overlook this either. The Browns fan base is ready for something new. They've been through uncertainty, they've been through constant changes, and they are looking for something they can actually believe in long term. And when you introduce a storyline like this, something that feels bigger than just wins and losses, something that feels like a movement instead of just another season, that hits differently. That gives the entire city something to rally around. And organizations know how powerful that can be. So again, This is not about saying it's already done. This is not about claiming deals are in place. This is about recognizing that the pieces, the timing, and the situation all create a window where something like this could actually come together. And now think about how fast everything could flip if just one of these pieces actually locks in. Because all it takes is one move to make people go from no way to wait a minute. If Shilo Sanders even gets close to Cleveland, whether it's a visit, a workout, anything like that, the entire conversation changes overnight. Now it's no longer just fans talking. Now it's real movement. Now it's something the league has to pay attention to. And once that door cracks open, you already know what comes next. All eyes immediately shift to Shedeur Sanders, because the connection is too strong to ignore at that point. And Cleveland suddenly becomes more than just another team trying to figure things out. They become a destination with a story attached to it. And stories matter in today's NFL more than ever, because players want to be part of something that feels like it's building. Something that feels like it has direction and energy behind it. And if the Browns can even hint at that kind of direction, they instantly become more attractive than people expect. And this is where it gets even deeper. Because front offices don't just react to talent, they react to opportunity windows. And right now, Cleveland has a wide open window to try something bold without breaking anything that's already working perfectly. Because let's be honest, they are still searching for that long-term answer. So why not explore a path that could potentially solve multiple things at once? You bring in Shiloh, you build familiarity, you keep your options open for Shedeur, and now you've created flexibility instead of pressure. That's a smart position to be in, and if things continue to trend in that direction, don't be surprised if conversations behind closed doors start getting more serious than people realize. Because just because it's not public doesn't mean it's not being discussed. Teams talk, agents talk, connections form quietly all the time. And with a name like Sanders involved, you better believe there are always conversations happening somewhere, even if nobody is reporting it yet. And here's the part that should really make people pause. Cleveland doesn't need to rush this. That's what makes it even more dangerous. They can let it develop naturally. They can let the idea grow. They can watch how everything unfolds before making any major commitment. And when you have that kind of patience, you can strike at the perfect moment instead of forcing something too early. And if that moment comes together, if Shiloh gets in the building, if Shedeur becomes a real target, if everything starts aligning, then what looked like a long shot turns into one of the most talked about moves in the league. And at that point, it's not just about football anymore. It's about a shift in power, attention, and identity that Cleveland hasn't had in a long time. So now it all comes down to this. Are people going to keep calling this just talk? Or are they finally going to recognize what might be building right in front of them? Because every big shift in this league always starts the same way. Quiet rumors, small moments, fans connecting dots that nobody wants to take seriously at first, and then one day, it clicks. One move gets confirmed, one decision gets made, and suddenly everybody pretends they saw it coming the whole time. That's how this works. And Cleveland right now is sitting in the middle of one of those moments. You've got uncertainty at quarterback, you've got a team searching for identity, and now you've got a name like Sanders starting to circle around the conversation. That is not something you just ignore and laugh off like it means nothing. Because if this actually turns into something real, if Shilo Sanders finds his way into that building, if Shedeur Sanders becomes part of the future, and if that door even slightly opens for Deion Sanders down the line, then this isn't just a move. This is a complete transformation of what Cleveland represents. This is a shift from confusion to direction, from noise to identity, from being questioned to being watched by the entire league. And that doesn't happen often. So yeah, maybe right now it feels like speculation. Maybe it feels like fans getting carried away. But those are always the moments that come right before something unexpected takes shape. And if you're paying attention, if you're really watching how this is unfolding instead of just reacting to headlines, you can see the potential sitting there, waiting for the right moment to connect. Because once it does, it won't feel random, it won't feel shocking. It will feel like something that was building the whole time while people kept doubting it. So remember this moment right here. Remember when people said it was nothing. Remember when people laughed. Remember when it was called just a rumor. Because if this actually happens, if Cleveland pulls this off step by step, this is where it all started.